I'm going to record a podcast today of going through the aflatoxin mitigation decision aid with Texas data. Over the last few weeks, we've been doing some with some of the other partners in our multi-state project, but today I'm going to go through and talk about it with the Texas slant. This project is was a beneficiary of funding from the Southern Extension Risk Management Education Center out of University of Arkansas. We do have partners at University of Georgia, Louisiana State University, and Mississippi State University. But if you have any need for additional information, you can click on the link here, and there's a publication that kind of talks you through some of the ins and outs of using these mitigation tools we're going to talk about today. The first thing you do is just click on the Get Started tab. It's going to bring up, there's really only 2 sheets that you have to fill out. There's not very much data here that you're required to provide. A lot of action goes on behind the scenes. We provided a lot of preloaded data to help you kind of speed the process up of getting through this data entry. So the first thing you do is click the state. It's a typical drop-down box. Again, the decision aid is designed for the 4 states that was included in our project. I'm gonna use Wharton County. I could use some of the Central Texas counties, but I'm gonna use one from the coast that basically has some issues with aflatoxin, but it's not as prevalent, and we'll show you how that would work. Non-irrigated, number of acres, some people could put in 1, or I'd put it in a 100-acre field, whatever you want to do. Just realize the way this tool works is the more acres you have, the more chance that when you do have aflatoxin, it's an issue. Why? Because you have more acres means more trucks that are going to be trying to find a home for that corn, and we do have the cost built into for transportation, trying to find different, there's a process of going through, and if you go to a grain handler and they don't want it, then you're going to have to go somewhere else, and that there's going to increase the cost. So the more acres you put, the more likely the atoxigenic is actually going to be a useful tool for you. I'm going to go ahead and put 100. The cost of treatment, these $11 for the product and $5 a flat on is pretty standard across the state of Texas, so I'm going to leave that. The total variable costs on that part of the world, Wharton County, I think total variable other than this atoxigenic, somewhere around $350. Expected local price, and this whole insurance stat here, we have put in revenue insurance, and I'm going to leave 70% coverage, which is kind of typical now. The projected insurance price, this is added from the tool. So we have a database that updates this periodically, and so you won't have to change this. The question would be, if you're selling corn locally, would you expect to get something more or less than the $391, which would be the insurance price? And what we have in here is a 5-cent basis, positive basis. Closeness to the ports, all those things. You put a negative if you wanted to, and put 380 or something. But frankly, I've put a 5-cent positive basis on here. The last part, which is a little bit more of a description, I got to give you, a scalar to localize the aflatoxin infection. So what we have is a lot of data for Central Texas, Williamson, Bell, Milam counties, and those year in and year out are particularly hard hit, or they had been before these widespread use of atoxigenics. They would have a lot more issues with aflatoxin. So that's where we have the best data at, and what we decided to do was scale everything relative to the amount of incidents and then the degree of severity of that incidence. Everything's relative to the Central Texas area, which would be in Texas probably, where we would have the most issues with aflatoxin. So I think for the coast, I'm going to put 80%, and this is one of the areas that if you're trying to evaluate whether to purchase this atoxigenics or not, this is the area where you go in and do what if analysis, and you can say, well, at 80%, we'll see in just a second, but 80% it may or may not work. But if we think it might be a little bit worse, maybe it comes into play. But let's see how it works. So once you're through entering yields, you notice that if there's data available from NASS, we have it there pre-populated. So this is Wharton County non-irrigated yields, and what we're doing is using county yields to take the place of your actual yields for that field as a head start. If you've got yields, then go ahead and type them in over the top of these and replace them. But frankly, you've got to have 10 years yields to make everything work right. And so we went ahead and pre-populated if the data's there. So I'm going to just leave this for now. If you hit run analysis, and as long as the little spinner is going, then effectively it's going to take a little bit of time. What it's doing is running the analysis 500 times, drawing different prices and yields and different incidents of aflatoxin infection. And so it takes a little bit of time, but as long as the thing is still spinning, you're good. With regard to our usage of the tool, I think the main thing is it's a decision aid. It's not a decision maker. It's going to help you decide whether this is something that's useful to you or not. When the results do pop up, we will. I'll go through and discuss them. So it does take about 30-40 seconds to do. Again, it's doing a lot of analysis in the background, and then we provide you summary. So the blue square says no treatment, the orange square says treatment. So it's a comparison. The no treatment out of 500 trials, the mean expected net revenue was $787 for that field. If you did treat it, the mean expected net revenue is $587. Well, you could say, well, that's not very much money. It has everything to do with how much insurance I bought and what level of variable costs I assumed when I put them in there. So, if you have lower costs than that, the expected revenue would be higher. The main thing to look at is it says at the bottom of the no treatment, 59% of the time, the no treatment had a higher return than treatment. So, okay, so 59% out of 100, it was no treatment was better. The way you can say that is 41% of the time treatment was better. So it's actually kind of a 50-50 proposition. At that level of incidence, 80% relative to the Central Texas area, it looks like about a 50-50 choice on whether it'd be worth it to you. We do put in some extra statistics, and if you don't understand what some of these words are, you click on them and we give you a short definition to help you out. But when you're looking at these, the first one is your average, mean is the average. The next two, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, are measures of risk. And what you want to do is you want the one that has the lower numbers. And essentially, the treatment option increases the amount of risk or the range of the outcomes, but just a little bit. Obviously, these results are very, what I would say, kind of indifferent or ambiguous. They're very difficult to tell which ones would be the best. Sometimes you could look at the cumulative distribution function here by clicking on CDF, and that takes the 500 iterations and stacks them on top of each other, and so you can kind of see what's the distribution look like, and if it's a clear-cut decision, one line will always be to the right of the other. In this case, that line crosses back and forth, and like I said, the results are a little bit ambiguous. So it's difficult to say. What does that mean? That means that if you're not risk-loving, then it might be worth the $16 an acre to go ahead and put this stuff out, because it does work, and that's one less risk you're going to have. You're always going to have weather risk. You're always going to have price risk, but you may not have the risk of having aflatoxin issues that you have to deal with. So I'm gonna do one thing. I'm going to go back and rerun the analysis, assuming a little bit higher probability of having a problem with aflatoxin. When I do that, then you're going to see, I think you're going to see that the results a little bit more slanted towards using the atoxigenic. So when I do that, I'll just go back to the percentage on the input screen, and I'll change it to, let's just say 100%. So whatever problem they might have whatever problem they've had in the past with aflatoxin, we might have it this in my area, which is I'm analyzing Wharton, Texas. So you hit run analysis, and I'll just take a quick look at the results. I'm fairly certain that when you say that the incidence is going to be more often and the problem is going to be worse, then as it says here, suddenly the treatment option yields a much higher expected net revenue than the no treatment. And this is why this tool is, again, it's a what if tool to say, what if I think that I'm going to have very little problem? Well, then obviously, based on the results I've already shown you, then you may not want to treat. But if you have a problem, or if you've got a contract with a poultry operation that will accept no problems with aflatoxin, this atoxigenic is probably something you want to look at a little bit harder. So until next time, thank you.